Welcome to Mayhem to Mastery, leading transformation from the middle, with your hosts, James Thompson and Ronii Bartles. In each episode, we will interview change agents, operators, and advisors who have learned to drive results without relying on formal authority. From process optimization to strategic communication, and yes, even competitive compliance. We break down what it takes to lead well when you're in the middle of it all. Mayhem to Mastery, Leading Transformation from the Middle, is a podcast for leaders navigating the messy, high-stakes space between top-down strategy and frontline execution. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on our website, concentricglobal.co. Now here's the hosts of Mayhem to Mastery, Leading Transformation from the Middle, James Thompson and Ronii Bartles.
Hello, and welcome to Mayhem to Mastery, Leading Transformation from the Middle. I'm your host, Ronii Bartles, and with me today is my co-host, James Thompson, and we have Larry White with us today. And Larry is a retired vice president of Smithers-Oasis and Temprecision International. Larry, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Larry.
James,
Hi,
you want to give a quick introduction and how you guys know each other?
Sure. Yeah, Larry's the man. He is, I guess, a former client, but for us, once a client, always a client. Larry was with Smithers-Oasis when we got the call to support them. I think it was early 2017, something like that. And so, yeah, I was fortunate to work with him and his leadership team on various management system projects and compliance and training and a little bit of strategy, and now working with that team, same team still, 9 years later in some learning management system project work, which is awesome. So, and we're both Midwesterners, I guess.
Hoosiers at that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few stories that you guys can tell. Don't doubt that. Larry, give us a little bit of background on you and what you did, and then kind of a little bit about what you're working on now, too.
Okay. Thanks for having me. Jim and I met because Smithers-Oasis had acquired a company with headquarters in the Southeast U.S., and we needed some process improvement and so forth. And so we came across Concentric, I think, at a seminar or a presentation, did some engagements there, and then did some work at Smithers-Oasis, which continues. And actually, Jim was integral in Smithers-Oasis achieving ISO certification and putting quality systems in our various locations around the world. Smithers-Oasis had 23 manufacturing facilities around the world, but does business in about 80 countries. I was fortunate enough to be responsible for helping those operations succeed and improve. And so I got to travel all around the world and carry some messages of improvement and encouragement, and also alignment with the company values and so forth. I was with Smithers-Oasis for about 23 years. And
Wow.
it was quite an enjoyable career. Prior to that, I was with Volvo Corporation, Volvo Trucks. And so, I had big and not so big, both with a global footprint, both excellent organizations that I was fortunate enough to be a part of.
Yeah,
Today,
alignment actually has been. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Today, I'm trying to give back a bit to the community, and I found a need in the development of young people, not just preparing them for business, but I think preparing them for life. And so I've been doing some things with the local high school and middle school on mentoring, and it's been quite a challenge, but also quite rewarding. And again, after being in industry for so long, the ability to now try to give something back to those people who I think really need it sorely now.
Mhm.
But I actually have a question about that. So when you're working with young people, are you finding a lot of their like goals wanting to go into industry and business like that? Or, what's kind of some of the younger generation trends that you're seeing a little bit?
Yeah, well, a lot of them, the goals are, how do I get to the next grade? Um,
Yeah.
this year, we actually introduced the development of SMART goals, which I was encouraged that we had that in our curriculum. And the students really, it seemed, connected with that. The idea that, we need to have very specific objectives that we can meet, because I think a lot of them, particularly at a young age, see the whole world, right? And it's a big cloud of mystery, opportunities, excitement, danger, and to help them maybe make some short-term milestones on that path. And what we've told them is that the goals that they establish in October will follow up in December and so forth. And then hopefully by the end of the year, see some progress to those, and also remind them that they do have a path with some mile markers along the way. So it really is about life, not so much yet about industry or vocation.
Yeah.
Yep. Executive functions, and how are you going to get there if you don't know where you're going? So it sounds like you're using some of the tools from your experience to help
Yeah,
them build
and
that pathway.
these by no means are underprivileged students, but I need to share with you a story that one of the kids mentioned that he had lost the key to his mini bike, and somebody said, "Well, maybe your dad took it," and he said, "Yeah, I don't know who my dad is." So we have this wide range, and I'm in a rural part of Ohio, which you would think that maybe those problems don't exist, but they exist everywhere, and there's a big need for help. And again, it's fulfilling to be able to connect with those and maybe see a glimmer of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that actually leads me into a question about, I know that when I was that age, like though we have so much technology now and there's so many opportunities, like it is kind of overwhelming. And so, for you kind of going from, industry and leadership roles into this kind of leadership role, like give me a little bit of background on like leadership as your calling and, kind of.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because I do think that one can be called to be a leader. One can be pressed into leadership by the situation, but we can also feel a sense of higher purpose, I think, in being given the opportunity to help guide those around us. And in many cases, to help others achieve what they never thought they could possibly achieve, right? And so I think it's a blend of empathy, of coaching, of encouragement, support, everything that you can imagine around um, emotional involvement with others. You mentioned when you were younger, and I did the same thing. I mean, there were a lot of paths that I could choose, and I was somewhat paralyzed with that panoply of choices. And my recommendation would be, hey, just pick one and get going, because as most of us know, where we are in life today is a bit of a surprise, I think, to our younger selves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know so many people that, went to school for one thing and didn't end up doing that. My dad's an example. He went to school to be an accountant and he went into IT.
Yeah.
So, I think it's so common. So let's talk a little bit about leadership when you were in a leadership role in a corporate kind of setting. Like, what were some of your best practices, and kind of like, how did you succeed in that kind of role?
Yeah. I had the opportunity to start off in frontline leadership in supervision on a factory floor, and move through the ranks at different levels of leadership, and ending up with being responsible for a business within Smithers-Oasis, Temprecision International, as well as I said, working as vice president of technology, and sharing with all of the operations around. But I would say that the leadership um, requirements are different, and I remember when I first became vice president, and I would look at some of my former colleagues who were running operations, and I thought, man, you guys have it made, because you tell somebody to do something and they do it. In a vice president's role, what I discovered was it's more influence and persuasion. Yes, there can be some influence by the title, but if one has to fall back on the title to get people to do things, you're probably not going to last very long or be very successful. And so I found that the relationships that I have, and developing those relationships, allows me to build that equity that I can spend persuading on certain topics, and influencing decisions and directions that our folks would take.
And so within that, can you give me I mean, I'm going to kind of go into like the title of our podcast, like Mayhem to Mastery, like going into that kind of leadership role, coming from the floor and going into that kind of leadership role. What are some examples or situations where it kind of was chaos, and you had to really put on that like leadership hat and lead people into kind of getting towards a bigger goal or vision?
Yeah. Yeah, I had the benefit, as I said, of being on the front line. And so I knew what that felt like in a crisis situation, to be uncertain, to be responsible, to try to figure out how I can contribute. So I carried that with me all along. I can tell you that my wife and I were taking a lovely drive in a September afternoon through Amish country in Ohio, when I received a call that our factory in India was on fire. And I got on the first plane, and about 24 hours later, I was standing in front of our smoldering building with our managing director and the director of operations, both in tears. Fortunately, there was no life lost or no injuries, but the building was a total loss. And you can imagine, in a market of 1.5 billion people, our only factory goes down. Yeah, that's a bit of a crisis situation. And so I was able to carry with me the support of the whole company. And I think that was reassuring, that I communicated first with those two key people, and then through the layers of the organization. We did not delegate those communications. I took all of those meetings. So we had a group meeting with all employees. We set up shop at a local warehouse, which was basically just a closet somewhere. And it had no facilities, it had no infrastructure, but we got the people together and we said, hey, this is going to be okay. We're going to be like the phoenix. We're going to rise up from the ashes. We called on some local suppliers and some of our better customers who, they knew that there was a problem. If we weren't supplying them, where were they going to get product? We used our global network to try to get them back on the road as quickly as possible. And then we established a plan, and we communicated that plan at every step along the way, so that the folks who were feeling that angst of, I just saw my life go up in flames. No, it's going to be okay. We're going to rebuild. It's going to be better. And you're going to be a critical part of that. And here's how. So the communication, the support, really wrapping my arms around a few of the people and letting them go through that emotion and empathize with them during all of that. Culturally, it was a bit of a challenge. Our managing director there is female, and with such a failure, she feared that her professional career would be over. I was there
Wow.
to convince her that it would not be. So that I think is the best example that I can say. I was really, really happy to be able to lead our group out of a crisis, even though I have to tell you, on the 15-hour flight over there, my guts were just turning because I had no
Mm.
idea what I was going to find when I got there. Right, it was the middle of the night in Mumbai when I got the call, and but anyway, that is I think the best example, the most recent example that I have of being thrown right in the middle of a very chaotic situation.
How long did it take you guys to get back up and running?
Well, we did, again, we leveraged some relationships that we had there. One of our key suppliers had some extra land with a chicken coop that he was
Okay.
willing to push the chickens out of and let us bring some
Wow.
equipment in. We bought some self-ready equipment. We got some equipment from one of our sister divisions in Malaysia, and believe it or not, the closest to that. And we were in production 4 weeks later.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite impressive. Yeah.
So teasing
Well,
out one of the elements there, Larry, that that made you stand out to me, as well as Robin, Larry's previous boss as a CEO of Smithers-Oasis. Both of you really stand out in my mind in the elements of empathy and really focused communication. And what struck me, I'll just tell a little story about Robin in particular, where there were folks coming in from all over the place. I think it was a holiday time period, and there were some company gatherings and pitch-ins or something like that. And
Mhm.
for her to look at me and ask me a genuine question about my family when there were dozens, maybe even 100 plus employees around, and it was almost like I was talking to a rock star, and I was like, okay, don't you need to go on and talk to your other fans? But she was so present, and I recognize that with you as well, Larry, just in the middle of chaos, and and not only with major initiatives going on with the company, but it's a busy holiday time and the company's expanding and you're bringing in all these new leaders and other employees and building new plants. You were present for the question. You weren't just throwing, hey, how's the family going, or what have you been up to? It was a
Mhm.
genuine clearing of the mind, and sit there and genuinely be interested in what my story was. And then the next time you saw me, you picked up from that last story. And I
Sure.
thought that is just amazing. But I don't
Yeah.
think like that. I tend to, I'm talking to you so I can buy myself some time to think about the 20 things that I have going on. And so that really, it changed the way that I led. It changed the way that I engaged, not only with your organization at the time, uh, but the way that I lead today. So just wanted to
Yeah, and I
highlight that.
appreciate you bringing up Robin because he was a tremendous leader, a mentor, and personal friend. In fact, my wife and I just had dinner with him last week. Um,
Okay.
I think it's about being authentic, Jim.
Mhm.
I think you can train people to act like they care,
Mhm.
um, but if you can model for people, it's okay to be authentic. Most people are authentic in their personal lives, right? I mean, they go
Right.
home, they're with their friends, they're with their family, they let it all hang
Mhm.
out. And if you can do that appropriately at
Mhm.
work, be authentic, be present, be there. So many good things can happen. And I've got to tell you, it's a much more fulfilling thing to do. It gives you a true sense of accomplishment that you can carry with you long after that truck is loaded, the product is shipped, you create the invoice, or you go to the bank, whatever those elements of business are. This authenticity, being genuine, and really caring for one another, makes Smithers-Oasis just a wonderful place to be, and I think we attract those types of people as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of
one
my
other
core
piece.
values. Go ahead.
Sorry, Ronnie, go ahead.
No, it's all right. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, as a follow up to that encounter, I would go up, fly into Akron after going to Charlotte, and end up an hour ride, and then you're crunching from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. sometimes, even after going out to dinner. It's midnight before your head hits the pillow, and that's exhausting when you're doing that. And then you're traveling back home and trying to be present in the home. And as an advisor, a consultant, an implementer, that's an exhausting existence. So one of the things that struck me that I wanted to try in a subsequent visit, after I kind of had that aha moment with the way that you and Robin are attentive and you are authentic, and I really took a different approach with the folks that I was working with in that follow-up trip, in being more about leaning on my natural side of authenticity and empathy and vulnerability, and not trying to prove myself as the technical wizard. It was like I had switched from the side of me that has a lot more friction and takes a lot more, cognitive bandwidth, back over to my natural side, which was, to ask questions like, well, what do you think we should do? Really allowing the folks I'm working with to, not follow me, but stand on their own. And by the end of that trip, I remember, and I told Steph, I said, man, I don't feel as exhausted, because I'm leading from not a technical position, but from, more of a spiritual position and encouragement. And so I give you and Robin, credit for kind of allowing me to take the easier path, which was a more effective path as well. So that'll always stand out to me.
God forbid we would expose our vulnerabilities, huh? When the truth of the matter is, our vulnerabilities are out there for everybody to see. We're the only ones we're fooling, right?
Right.
And so if we can move past that and say, yeah, we don't have all the answers on everything. In a moment of crisis, probably not a good thing to do. It wouldn't have been good for me to go to Mumbai and say, yeah, well, we've got a mess here. What do you think we should do? They didn't need to hear that. So it is situational. I must tell you that. But at the end of the day, authenticity and being present for others, I think really, really makes a difference.
It's a lot about company culture at that point. Being
it
very
sure
decisive. Yeah. And in the situation, you needed to be decisive as a leader, but as a company culture, you kind of take from leadership all the way down.
You do. Yeah, you really do. And you can see organizations change pretty abruptly, can't you, when their leadership changes, and how the rest of the organization models that. Sometimes some folks don't feel that the new culture or the developing culture is one for them, and they exit themselves, and that's okay. And we attract others who are of like mind.
Yep. Yeah. So I also want to make sure I hit on the topic, because I think this is a good one, of balancing your vision versus tasks. Because I know James and I, even just the two of us in a consulting role, I really have a hard time with this, because there are so many ideas and visions and places you want to take an organization. But how can you connect that strategic plan of the goal of the company down to implementation and kind of managing then the tasks that make that happen? Like how can you connect that?
I think you have to periodically take a step back and assess. What have I done last week that will get me toward where I think I should be next week? I do think those short sprints are important. And I likewise think that a longer term vision is equally important. Revisiting those, I think, can be at different time periods, right? A longer term goal, I think, could be visited less frequently than the near term goals. And making sure that the tasks that I am undertaking today at least are contributing to those short term goals, which should roll up into the long term. Jim is a big advocate of lean as well as I. And we all know there are value added, non value added, but necessary, and then just plain non value added. Okay. So try to keep most of the things we do relative to vision in the value added. If we have to go into the non value added but necessary, okay. And whatever percentages we want to come up with there, 2/3, 1/3, whatever, and really not spend any time on those totally non-value added entities. And again, non-value added relative to the vision.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find yourself spending too much time on that end of the spectrum, perhaps we need to revisit our vision. And make sure that we really, because the situation that we're in today may not be one that we expected. The vision, I mean, look at today's political climate, economic climate, what have you. Some of the normal rules don't apply. And so we do need to, I think, revisit those frequently. But if we find ourselves spending a lot of time and stuff that we don't think we're making traction toward our vision with, let's revisit our vision. Let's not beat ourselves up for, oh man, I wasted all day yesterday, right? No, you didn't waste. You did some good things yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make sure that that those things are headed in the direction that we want to go.
Yeah. James, as we're starting to wrap up this interview, I wanted to see, we've had this great conversation. What is one of your key takeaways from this conversation with Larry?
Well, it's interesting. Instead of pointing out something that I think is interesting that he has said, he again is motivating me to ask questions to kind of solve my own problem. So let me throw this one at you. Let's say that you're in a scenario where those employees that leaned on you as a leader back in the day, they're coming to you or calling you and saying, Larry, I feel like, back to the political and economic climate in our country right now, I'm very, very concerned. What should I do? I don't know if I'm going to have the money to go on vacation or for the holidays, and kind of that chaos I think that a lot of us are in emotionally right now. How do you take the skills that you've accumulated and sharpened over, the 30, 40 years you were in industry? How do you apply that to, I guess, kind of calming and bringing the blood pressure down for a group, or it could just be an individual that has that type of kind of internal panic attack going on? What would you say there?
Yeah.
How do you coach them in that moment?
Time on the planet helps. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And the luxury and wealth of experience certainly helps. But I think you have to recognize all of the feelings, all of the emotions, everything that they're going through as being real, because those are real to those people, and at the same time, help them understand that there is a tomorrow, there is a brighter future. We don't know exactly what that path looks like, but we will get through this problem. Those of us who have experienced significant medical issues can tell you, there are moments when you decide whether you're going to give in and be a victim, or whether you're going to turn it around and say, doggone it, just like Gary Sinise at the top of the crow's nest in Forrest Gump, right? Is that all you got?
That's right.
And and so I would just I would again put my arm around their shoulder. Man, I know things are tough right now, but let me tell you that there will be a brighter tomorrow for you.
That's
it may
great.
sound Pollyannic, but it is I think something that we need to do for one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Great
Yeah,
answer.
I love the balance between empathy and decisiveness. While I agree, empathizing is great, and I think it's a great leadership tool. But there is that moment, like you said, and when you're in Mumbai and you're looking at it, and you have to be decisive as a leader too. So I think there's kind of a balance there, and that's one key takeaway I've had today is like empathy versus decisiveness, and finding that good balance to kind of make things successful for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
Larry,
it's the
thank you so much
empathy.
for being with us.
It's empathy versus the technical decisiveness plus the tactical checks versus the longer term strategical checks. So it's kind of breadth and depth there. So thanks, Larry. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Good to see both of you.
What's the next step in terms of someone wants to get a hold of you or follow you, or your TikTok channel, or read more about your words, anything? And you can say leave me alone. That's fine too.
No, it's not about leaving me alone. But I would rather that they would go through you guys, so that you're having some impact as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect you to filter anything for me. But I think if anyone wants to hear more or learn more, or just say, "Man, you're crazy," to go to you, Jim or Ronnie, and be happy to forward it on to me.
Awesome.
I hope one day you write a book. I would love to read that.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah. It would be a good one. Well, we really appreciate you being with us today. We're going to have all the information in the show notes as well. And just thank you for talking with us today and giving us some insights.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.
You've been tuning into Mayhem to Mastery, leading transformation from the middle, with your hosts, James Thompson and Ronii Bartles. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on our website, concentricglobal.co. Thank you for joining us.